Okay, aloha everybody. My name is Chris Rabello.
And I am B.A. Yuri. We are founders from the Divine Quantum Institute in Honolulu, Hawaii. And thank you again for joining us again today. We are so honored to speak with Dr. Amit Goswami, P.H.D. and Dr. Valentina Onisor M.D. They both made huge contribution to the quantum science. They are author of the book Quantum Integrated Medicine, and they are world reference in studies that reconcile science and spirituality. So we are very excited today to talk to you guys and share your guys' knowledge with our listeners today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the first question is, how can the quantum physics be applied in everyday in life?
How to bring consciousness into everyday life?
Yeah, how the
Yes.
quantum physics can be applied in the
In
daily life.
life.
Okay, so this is, of course, the basic question. Most people get very absorbed in their me-centeredness, and then they have mood swings. They don't react to that very well because they're still in their me-centeredness. And then, of course, there's always the lure of information processing today. Let me look at the cell phone, because people get hyperactive very easily today, attention deficit accompanied as well. And so they cannot put their mind in anything that requires creativity. So this is what constricted consciousness. I haven't even mentioned pleasure. So what to do is really start a life with some awareness. And for that, we need to meditate. And this is a difficult thing. Valentina can talk more about this, but hyperactivity prevents the ability of sitting down and meditating. So they really need to meet someone, preferably in the family or teachers. And this is what we are missing in our society. If some elderly that they can respect, that can inspire them into paying attention, then they can discover these things by simply developing capacities like sitting quietly for a few minutes, starting with just a few minutes. We suggest 5-minute meditation. Just be patient, but somebody has to inspire them to do this. This is the tough thing. Consciousness can be expanded so easily. Once you get the hang of it, all you have to do is to take a nature walk, look at a lake, look at a river, look at the sunset, look at flowers, indoor flowers will do, develop relationships, so many ways we can do this. But definitely we cannot do this looking at the cell phone every 5 minutes. We cannot do that. So cell phone has become a real culprit of why today's kids and even young adults and even adults, we have seen many adults, they're so attached to their cell phone. Every 5 minutes, they have to check if there is something new. So these are the things. And what to do about is constant preoccupation of those of us who are into health teaching role or therapist role, because this is a health hazard. This is especially a mental health hazard. That's how it begins. Valentina, you have more to say on this, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little bit. So what Amit's mentioning now, it's actually more of the blockages, So there are inner blockages and outer blockages to our creativity, because that's the idea, to bring creativity in our lives, to engage with the archetypes eventually, with something that has a value and meaning and purpose. That's what is lost nowadays, and that's why, the human capacities are actually decreasing, So that's the direction. The direction would be to really bring meaning and purpose. And then the quantum principles, to apply them, it's not so difficult, especially when you think of non-locality, just connection, even 2 by 2 people, and then eventually more people, then creating again the communities, which were so much the rule of living in the past. And now we are so separated. So again, we go to the blockages, but to bring the quantum principles in daily life, it's really not so difficult. You need to have the willingness, again, to connect with another person and to, again, bring in your life values, meaning and purpose. That would be a beginning, I think.
Wonderful. Do you guys have any, like tips to meditate? Because I know a lot of people, they think about meditation as something boring, that they have to sit quiet and they have really hard time silencing and connecting. Do you have any tips for anyone that wants to start meditating, that are struggling with it, or they tried and they were unsuccessful?
Quantum science of manifestation. So what we teach basically is that if you have really a desire, that is the important thing. One has to have the inspiration to try something new. So if that is available, then it is all quite easy, because then we can institute slowly the belief that yes, they can do anything they want to, provided it is in consonance with the purpose of life, meaning of life. So until now, they have done trivial pursuit, and then they have to convert from trivial pursuit to something significant, something with meaning. That switch really requires inspiration in life. If the inspiration is present, then we suggest you set intentions and gradually bring the intentions into consonant movement of meaning and purpose in the world, which we call movement of consciousness. So this is basically the plan to get to a stage where meditation is easy, where being quiet for a while, where doing with concentration, focusing your mind to something purposely becomes easy. And then we tell them to focus on this process of getting intuition, sensitivity to intuition. That's basically the process.
Okay, let me add a little bit. Can I add something? Because you asked some tips, yeah? So it would be excellent to practice what is called mental hygiene, and that's to start with, because again, as Amit said, people are really fidgeting nowadays, and it's so much focus, lack of focus, so it's the span that we can focus is extremely small, it's very reduced nowadays. We cannot, we choose something, then we choose something else, then we choose something else. Of course, we don't have efficiency in anything, And again, without mental hygiene, which means that as we go to bathroom, we take a bath, or as we clean the house, we also need to be attentive to what's happening in the background of our minds, If it's just a monkey mind there throwing bananas at us, we will not see anything. It's just clouds covering us, So you cannot really use this power of choice that we all have as a divine gift there, So we cannot really use it. We just keep changing and changing and changing. And then, of course, you cannot have quality relationships. You cannot have quantum healing, of course. And you cannot have creativity in this way. That's not creativity to choose this, choose this, choose this. That's not like that, And again, we recommend people to start with mental hygiene. I'll tell you a very short and simple and efficient exercise, actually. But also with concentration, first of all, on a physical object, and then concentration on an inner movement of vital energy or a chakra or something like that. But first of all, it's outer, towards an outer object. So the very easy way to start, if you want, for mental hygiene and to improve the quality of your life and eventually get into meditation would be to simply focus on your breathing, because the breathing is connecting you immediately with the physical body. People are very much disconnected with the physical body and with the feelings in the body, and then also it's connecting you this way with the present moment, that's the beauty. So what we do, we simply should keep the back straight, relax the shoulders, relax the belly as much as possible, and start with this the day, So the first thing in the morning, without jumping on your phone, without checking your kids, without I don't know what. So first thing in the morning is kind of be with yourself for at least, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. And that just keep your attention on the breathing, you know, at the level of the nostrils. Simply keep all your attention on the breathing, the air coming in and out, and just witness that, you know, without influencing the breathing, without, you know, so if the mind comes in, you just bring yourself, your attention immediately to the witnessing of the breathing. And just do that, and you will see what's happening. And then you do this also in the evening, the very last thing before falling asleep. And then even in between, in the day, when there are so many bad moments, instead of just checking your phone and see another news, you know, that will be something, again, which will improve your life quality immediately. And again, eventually, it will also lead you towards meditation, because both concentration meditation, you know, so this is concentration on the breathing. Again, there is concentration on a physical object situated in front of you at the level of what we call the third eye, you know? And you just contemplate that object for a few minutes. That's another way, very efficient, to go into concentration meditation, first of all. Because again, both concentration meditation, they are great for activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to balance the usual overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system in today's stressful life, of course, right? And it also eliminates these harmful effects of the stress hormone, cortisol. So the idea is to enter what we call the preconscious eventually, you know, where there is more quantum self in the experience on the average. And the chances are high that we eventually fall into the quantum self and expansion of consciousness, right? Because that's what we want.
Amazing.
Dr. Valentina, you work with the family, right? You right? You doctor for family, right? This tip you can use with the kids too, or just for adults?
Yes, of course. It starts with the kids, you know. So again, if you want a life of happiness and expansion of consciousness, it's all building up in the childhood, you know. So the first years are very important, but of course you need to work with the parents to create these healthy habits. And again, education. So education and working with children, they're essential for a state of health and for a state of happiness also later on.
Just out of curiosity, how many times a day and for how long do you guys meditate on a daily basis? Just curiosity.
For me, it's 2 times a day. And again, it's minimum 30 minutes, but sometimes it can be more hours, depends on the time and on the period.
Okay.
I
Amit?
don't really formally meditate anymore. I don't need to. But life is more and more like meditation. So I focus a lot, obviously, mostly writing and research and teaching. And those things all are focused activity. And in between, I relax a lot. So that's basically the process. The meditation takes us there. Once you reach there, it is important to meditate only when you find that your mind is really kind of dissipated. And that happens sometimes, writer's block, etc., research block in somebody didn't do something right, or things have a barrier. And certainly that produces anxiety, and then I actually meditate and quiet down the difficulties that I'm having, because mind gets anxious. So unless anxiety hits, the objective is to get into a flow of life. But that flow is difficult for people like Valentina, for example. For her, she is the executive of our university. And because of that, she handles everything academic, talking to students. It's stressful. So actual active meditation is extremely important. Although if she were to live a quiet life like I live, you know, at 85, they just spare me for all the details, so I don't have to do anything.
For sure.
Indeed. So again, the idea is to learn to live in this do-be-do way. And indeed, if we have to deal with a lot of things, you know, and talking to people and arranging this and that, and also having consultations and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily that you're only in that creative flow of writing books or, you know, or just when we teach webinars, that's such an amazing flow of creativity hitting us, But then again, when we have to deal with factors that take us from the inside towards the outer world, it's just, again, it's mental hygiene practice, which is good to do, because if not, we get into crisis, and I've been into a little bit of crisis, in the last years. Of course, everybody has been in various ways, because we are picking up what's happening in the world also, right? If you're involved in the world, which is the ideal in quantum spirituality, we also pick up all kinds of things, and especially as women, our structure is different than the men, and the way we evolve, the way we are receptive to things, the way we need to give to the world, it's also different. And again, it's part of the ecology, it's part of our self-respect, of the self-love, to also give yourself such moments to come back and connect with yourself. That's where our power is, right?
Yes.
Wow, that's very powerful. And thank you. The second question is, you claim that quantum physics is the science of possibility. What does this mean in practical terms?
Well, possibility is a concept that should be immediately apparent. Difference is that ordinarily we have a tendency of thinking, because of Newtonian physics, that the movement of stuff, movement of things, objects, they are kind of determined. You could tell where the object will end up by measuring its present condition, and the laws of physics. This idea became kind of in the more of the culture. Everybody seems to assume that things are of that quality, determined quality. Quantum physics says otherwise. Quantum physics says there is always some leeway. One does not have to take the end point to be fixed of any movement. Anything moves in possibility first. And then it is consciousness that chooses out of the possibility one outcome, and that's the outcome that manifests. If we remember the simple thing that unless somebody is manifesting, conscious somebody, like a human being, is choosing and manifesting, nothing happens. Now, of course, what happens is that human beings have become kind of obtuse and careless, and so we are not aware that moment to moment we are actually choosing the outcomes. And when we lose awareness, then it is true that the quantum physics has a probabilistic aspect. For every possibility, there's a certain probabilities. And therefore, all the possibilities have probabilities. And probabilities are determined by what we end up doing most often and the conditioning of ours. But the conditioning is never fixed. It's conditioning for several options. We forget that. And then when we forget, when we are not aware, then consciousness chooses on the average based on the probability. And this is how we get the idea, because sometimes probabilities are close to 100% for one outcome and very small for different outcomes. And therefore, we often find that our behavior is as expected. And that's how we assume this fatalistic idea that it's all conditioned and I cannot change. I cannot change my behavior. This is what Valentina means. Part of that is this mental cleansing. Mental cleansing is more than just cleaning up negative emotions. It's also cleaning up the belief system. And this is a horrendous part of people's belief system that I cannot change. I remember, my wife used to say, well, learn to love from your heart. And I used to say, I cannot change. How can I change? That was for a physicist. I mean, I was born and brought up virtually, at 16, I'm already reading quantum physics. So I should have known the message, but I didn't. In my own life, I thought quantum physics is for elementary particles and all that. But the fact that it actually applies to us, that idea came much later.
So to clean the belief systems, for example, do you guys have any like techniques or to help with this, with the possibilities? Do you have any techniques to help with the cleansing of the blockages and the, would you say it's more meditation?
Valentina can expose on that. She's great in explaining this thing.
Yeah, there's a lot. So it depends. I mean, we are taking every single person from where they are, you know. So if you want as consultations, as a medical doctor, you know, or as guiding somebody in spiritual growth and development, or in our courses, in the classes that we have for master and PhDs, there's a whole system. It's a whole, really, we offer courses on consciousness and so on. The first thing is to become aware where we are. You know, so again, if there's a trauma there, for sure you know it. You know, if there is, this is main. I mean, the main thing I think, the main blockage probably is, for example, when we need forgiveness. You know, just to tell you one example. You know, because when we don't forgive, when we have something that happened with us in the childhood, it's a whole process, a whole vicious circle that is generating catastrophes in our being, you know. So first of all, you need to understand some principles and concepts. For example, we don't even know, I mean, for example, we think that if we forgive somebody, it means that either that person doesn't deserve it, which again is not about another person, it's about ourselves, it's about loving ourselves. And also then we think that if we don't forgive somebody, then we will just continue the same relation with the person. Again, it's not like that, but there are some blockages in the way of this process, yeah. But again, for example, if we don't forgive, then our life shrinks at every level. And when we engage in that, a lot of wonderful things, miracles happen, you know. We are preparing ourselves for these miracles, for this new condition. You know, we have obviously when it's a traumatic thing, it's a karmic process. You know, when you're thinking of something and your consciousness contracts immediately, you know, there's something there that you need to act upon, you know. You need to know how to act, and then it's easy when you do it in a group. You know, I'm just taking this example, for example, you know. And then what you do, you need to also obviously start with what Amit said already about creativity. You need to manifest this intent. The most honest and strong you manifest an intent, and in this case, the intent to forgive and heal your heart, for example, you know, the bigger the chances, you know. So you're preparing that even 70% of the action can be really done when you're able to manifest this intent and hold it, you know, manifest it constantly, morning and evening, you know, not change it until it's done, no matter how long it takes. You know, it's a matter of perseverance. We are not taught about these things, you know, when we are children. Mental hygiene, perseverance, there are qualities that refer to various subtle levels in our being, and we can develop them no matter what age, no matter where we are, no matter the crisis situation that we are, and even more, you know. So when we are in a crisis situation, you know, this opportunity of really changing something in our being is there. So we need to grasp it, you know. And of course, many times you need the teacher, you need the doctor next to you, and you should ask for help. When we are in a deep traumatic state and constricted state of consciousness, many times we think we don't even deserve that, you know. And again, that's a lie. That's a lie of the ego. That's a lie. Again, we have to become aware of these major imperfections that define our base level human conditions, and especially the brain limitations, you know. Because again, for example, there's this machine-like information processing tendency in all of us. There's a me-centeredness, yeah.
Mhm.
There's these negative emotion brain circuits, you know, that are 5 times stronger than the positive ones. And it's our duty to create the positive ones, you know. And then, of course, there's the pleasure-centeredness, you know. So these are barriers to our creative exploration of the archetypes, you know. And they are kind of self-limiting, and they create barriers to the self-exploration as well. And yes, we are born with the same possibilities, you know, the same, I mean, they are there, but during the development of, you know, from childhood to adulthood, as I mentioned in the beginning, these barriers to creativity, they are, and to access to consciousness, they lead to the development of what is called brain-mind doshas, you know. So this dumping down, for example, cause of autism, hyperactivity that leads to the ADHD nowadays, intellectualism that leads to depression, and so on, you know. So we need to become aware of what is the problem, then start working with the intent, and of course with the proper practices of vital creativity. I would say to start with that, vital creativity through Tai Chi, through yoga, through various things which are well done, and then eventually you go towards archetypes and mental creativity afterwards, kind of, So if you're serious, that would be the route, shortly put.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, that's because right now, especially right now, I think I have a lot of kids have a ADHD, depression, anxiety. And I noticed after the COVID starts, a lot of people,
Things got even worse,
special kids, I tell about the Hawaii, because a lot of kids in Hawaii have anxiety, because, right? I forget to ask you one question. I think everybody's want to know. When you, Dr. Valentina, and Dr. Amit meet each other?
Okay, we met in India, I don't know, 6 years ago or something like that. In Bangalore, there was a woman working in a lab there, and she invited me because I was already familiar with that place. I was very much home in India already in the last many years. And that woman invited me to meet Professor Goswami because she was planning to open a university there, which didn't happen, but we clicked from the first moment, So it was so obvious for me that it was like the voice of my heart there. And immediately we started developing various things. So it was just amazing moment. That was the moment. 6-7 years ago, something like that.
And if people want to learn more, because you mentioned that you guys have courses, do you guys have available online, or is it in person?
So there is, go to the website amitgoswami.org, and there you find information about what we have. There's also YouTube channels. You find me on Instagram. I have a lot of things recorded if you want there. And you can write to us at info@amitgoswami.org. And yes, the course is on Master and PhD. That's the major program that we have now. And also there is certification programs, 3 types, so just go to the website and see if that's what the people are looking for. Please contact us, of course. We'll be happy.
I have a question. Sorry.
I should add that if students come to our PhD program, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, I expect fully to guide them into research. So people can look forward to personally working with me.
Oh, amazing.
Of course, is always the helper, but I usually am still available until I can.
Yeah, very much available. So I tell you guys, Amit is for me the #1 example of continuous transformation, seriously. So at his age, his creativity is sparkling. So it's like 20 years. Seriously, no, I'm just telling you, I'm just so amazed, and everybody is. There's so much work that he's taking on, and the creativity that that's what keeps him very, very well and healthy. And hopefully we'll have him with that for many, many years.
Okay, that what is amazing that we have discovered, Valentina, in our brain book, Quantum Brain, that everyone can rewire their brain to accept that, to awaken that quantum status into capacity of intuition, capacity of curiosity. Once you have that, anyone can be like Valentina, like me, like you guys who are very creative already in your life. So this is open to all of us. And this is what we constantly emphasize. Look, barriers are your creation. Clean it up. Clean up those barriers, see them as opportunity, and you will be able to manifest your life in a different way.
The main message of the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, is that we create our own reality. How does this creation take place?
Well, actually, What the Bleep, the way it came about was very mysterious to me still, because I was relatively unknown, although known in quantum physics, but quite unknown in the general arena. Why should movie makers become interested? But they did become interested at that time. So I was getting invitations, and this one came just as one of them. I didn't pay much attention, but the interviews were good. They did it for 6 hours, and I can do that kind of thing, and still do, by the way. In Brazil, we give 4 days, 5 days of workshop, and Valentina helped me, of course, but I still can go for about 4, 5, 6 hours.
Yes, gotta come to Hawaii.
So we did that, and then I forgot about it. Because, I am basically a teacher and a researcher, book writer, but so that was not in my mind. And then I got a call from the local newspaper. And the newsman asked me, we want to know about this movie that you appeared. So I said, what movie? And then they explained, I haven't seen it yet. So I said, I haven't even seen it, but I answered some questions. And then I still didn't feel like seeing it. And then a friend called and she insisted that I should see it. And she brought over the video, she brought over her own video player and watched it together. That's how I got an impression of what the movie actually was. So going back to the theme, yes, it did talk about manifestation, and it focused on 2 aspects, and those 2 aspects became further developed in my own thinking. So I'm very grateful for the creation of the movie. The quantum physics aspect was represented by me and Fred Alan Wolf, and the second aspect that we have to rewire the brain was mostly depicted by Joe Dispenza. What complicated the situation with the viewer, however, was that quantum physics also was presented by some other researchers who had different opinions, and that became a little confusing. The brain part also, Joe Dispenza's views were more on the rewiring of the brain, but not so much on the creativity. So on second thought, I wish we could do the movie again with the message much more properly put. But as it was, the acting was marvelous, and the way they interspersed the dialogue of the physicists, that was good. The confusing parts never appeared together. So for a non-scientist, often they don't even get the fact that people are making contradictory statements in the presentation by the scientists and physicists. So that was the part that I did not like. But otherwise, it was a good enterprise. It was a good movie. It put me on this map of consciousness researchers. So I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, but let me tell you, like from outside, how it felt for me, like many years ago, I was watching that. And yeah, if you cut it pieces like that, then you see the imperfections. But overall, it gave such a wonderful feeling about this mystery of life, the mystery of our potential, and that we don't really know so much about it, we know very little indeed. We have, it's manifested, I don't know if it's 5% of the combined brain manifesting, we're already genius. So imagine how much potential is just waiting there, at all the levels. So kind of, it gives this feeling of mystery, and it even gives some inspiration and aspiration to the one who is looking. So overall, for me, it was wonderful to see that movie.
Amazing. One more question that I have for you guys. Can we create only good things, banishing suffering from our lives, or suffering is part of life? Or with the quantum, can we banish it?
Yeah, this is a very important question. Can we manifest anything? Anything is the problem. Anything does not have meaning and purpose. So what happens is that we do have choices as ego. So if we are intending on my ego in that consciousness and only for me, what happens is that consciousness does not resonate with it. we go by what is left for the ego to will, which is our free will, which is to choose in the from the spectrum of conditioned choices that we have. But conditioned choices are guided by the conditioning of other people as well, conditioning of the world. The whole world run on people only guided by their conditioned choices. And they sometimes will conflict, and that then will prevent the manifestation. For example, I want a car, but I don't want to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that conflicts with the interest of the car owner who wants some money in exchange of selling me the car, right? And in those conflicting situations, whose choice counts? So the appropriate choice will come. So in this way, for conditioned things, it is hopeless to intend. I mean, I can intend all I like, but the intention will have to go through the channels of resolving that conflict. How can that conflict be resolved? I save the money and then I pay the money to the dealer and then I will get a car.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way. You can steal, but then police will catch you, etc., etc. So when we talk about intention making, this is the single most problem of people. Their intentions are directed to the me. And consciousness has no interest in how the me, what the me is about, what the me gets, because me is quite detached from consciousness. Me is an object. I have to feed the I, who has to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And consciousness has the interest of the I in mind. And therefore, the movement of consciousness is directed towards meaning and purpose, which is how the I can grow. My ability of being the experiencer of new things, creating new things. So we teach this aspect very much, how to change from conditioned want to creative want. Creative intention, creative intentionality is the whole point. That's the creation that consciousness helps, and that's the creation that can manifest. So we have to get a sense of the archetypes, the kind of thing that we end up doing that is of meaning and purpose. And then we have to choose meaning and purpose. And for that, all those things that Valentina said earlier, those things were important: cleaning the mind, mental cleansing, looking at the barriers, removing them, learning the creative process, meditating, do, and then we can enact the creative process. But it has to begin with intention and intuition. So we call it a 7I process. Valentina explains the 7I process very, very well. You do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, also the thing was that they were asking if one can live without, let's say, sadness or sufferance or something, you know. And I don't think life is like that, you know. So there are ups and downs, and there will be always ups and downs. The idea is that when we get to a high moment of creativity in this way, like if we tap into this place of creativity, we need to, so it's again reconnecting with ourselves more and more, charging ourselves. But then again, you can estimate about your own level of happiness, which again is in relation with your mental state, health status, you know, by its stability, you know. So for example, recognizing how much time it takes for you to return to normal, you know, from an upset or emotional upheaval or a sufferance or whatever moment comes, you know. So if you probably heard about Abraham Maslow. So again, the question of what is mental health or happiness has to be addressed, you know. So if the components of our ecosystem of the psyche, you know, the subject, the self, you know, and the objects are in balance and harmony, acting as a whole, then we call that a perfect mental health. Now, of course, how many of us have that? You know, again, there are so many factors, you know, from reincarnations to the way we grew up in this life and so on. Yeah. And so again, to what extent we attain this perfection is giving us the scale of mental health in terms of quality, you know. And there was in the 60s, this psychologist, Abraham Maslow, gave a simple scale of happiness: pathological, normal, and positive. And now in this century, we can do better, you know. So, and we classify people in ascending levels of happiness from level 0 to 6, and it's called the quantum science spectrum of happiness. Yeah. And that's, again, it's a major course in our teachings, about the quantum science spectrum of happiness, and again, it's very important to check this, like how much time it takes for us to return to normal from an upset or emotional upheaval, because again, we don't need to play with this so much. So yes, sufferance is normal there, but staying in sufferance is not normal. It can lead us to decrease our immunity. It can lead us to cancer. It can just lead us to just take it as normal and live in this state of anxiety and depression and hide it, and eventually even suicide. There are so many cases that they come to work every day smiling, and you hear the second day that they kill themselves, And not to mention the people who are just killing themselves, they are acting like euthanasia, in some countries is legalized, for people who are simply bored of life. So imagine that, what level is that, So we have to, again, see where we are and see truly. So this is, for example, I'm just giving you, if you want some keywords for these levels. So the 0 level, it's obviously the people who are susceptible to pathology, psychosis, neurosis, yeah. There are many factors, as I said, genetic issues, childhood traumas that can lead to this experience of very low level. Yeah. Then again, it's virtually it's a 0 self-awareness and happiness, and psychotic tendencies, So people who are hardly able to focus or meditate, they are not even available for psychotherapy much, and if you get in these suffering states, negative upset, it lasts for months and even years, and imagine what's happening to the immune system, So even serial killers, if you want, in that level. Yeah. Then level 1 would be the level of moderate self-awareness and minimal happiness, So neurosis is still common, but these people can pay some attention to objects, and also they can still relax and live a little bit somewhere there, and they can get some help from teachers or from therapists, But again, it can still last too many days when they get in sufferance. Yeah. Then there's level 2, it's this maximal ego self-awareness, but still it's moderate happiness. So psychology normal people are happiness level 2, but actually it's a 2- 2 plus kind of. So we say in quantum science normal about people who can cope with their neurosis usually, with some help of therapy, it can, they can manage, and again, but still when it's still coping with neurosis, you think of it as a 2-. Yeah. And when you start exploring happiness and exploring your own meaning, not just what somebody else's describes and their other people's meaning, which is again still information, no matter how good meaning is that, So when we start exploring some noble feelings that way, then we speak about level 2 plus. Yeah. So again, usually people are at the level 2. Just think of that, Mm-hmm. And yeah, we are even saying that that at our courses we get the chance, especially if people stay more with us with the courses, to bring the people higher than 2, at least like a 3 level, So again, it's a lot to explain about this, But again, in other words, people of this level 2 would, they need a therapist or they need the spiritual guidance for a 2 plus optimal functioning. Yeah. And again, then they would take less time to recover from upsets than the previous levels, but still minutes to hours, and days sometimes, The level 3 is when usually with some help, we develop positive emotional brain circuits. Yeah. And to balance the negative at some extent, and then again acquire some emotional intelligence, So that's the beginning stage of positive mental health. You are more happier than not, So again, at this level, we engage personal growth, self-enhancement, and explore our human potential. And again, work in order to embody an archetype, our own archetype related to our dharma and all that. These are terms that need explanation, but I hope the audience knows about these things. So at this level, we develop a little bit of authenticity, And then level 4 is becoming an individual with your take on at least one archetype, So we call it the individuation, from Carl Jung's terms, So again, people at this level, we have integrated the 3 fundamental dichotomies. Again, we need to understand them. And there is a joy of flow coming substantially in our life, And the telling sign about these people is that they bounce back from upsets very quickly, less when it's an intimate relationship, which that's the most transformative engine that we have in our life, an intimate relationship. So that may trigger whatever garbage is still left there, of course, But again, they are on the way to master emotional intelligence also, So, the dichotomy is associated with the archetypes, so good, evil, true, false, beauty, ugly, and so on, So again, and then the level 5 is again, successful exploration of the wholeness archetype, and mastery over all the common archetypes except the self, which is the renunciation of the world, So archetypes, again, it's a huge discussion also to understand what we talk about. And then level 6 is, it begins with the traditional enlightenment, where we experience reality of who we really are, self-realization, and the attempt to live it, So again, it's called the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Samadhi without separateness, God realization, if you want, So, so that would be the level. I mean, that's of course a level where not many people are,
Yeah. Thank you for the explanation. That's very in-depth.
Yeah.
That's really, really nice. And the last question that we have for you guys, if you both could choose one message to share with the world, only one message, what would that be? Like,
I suppose for me, it should be simply that 4-letter word, love. If people learn to love, even at the level of being good to other people, that's the social kind of love, not even intimate situations, which is harder, as Valentina explained. But loving other people expands consciousness in a very natural way, and vice versa. If you have expanded consciousness, then it is easier to love people. So those two things have to be worked together. I'm very happy that you already have the awareness, because you started with the first question, how do we become more conscious? And that's the expansion of consciousness. That's how we become more conscious. And then we come full circle to realize that when we can work from expanded consciousness and are open to love, that is all really it takes. And beyond that, whatever happens, life takes you there. You don't have to do much. This is the condition that people say when they mean, I would love to go with the flow. So with the capacity of love and expanded consciousness, we can go with the flow. That's it. That's the wisdom.
Amazing. How about you?
For me, it's going to be love, obviously, and compassion, and living in nature as much as possible. Again, that would be things to prepare us, because again, heart is crucial in terms of expansion. And if you think only at the thought level, intuition, the expansion is easily blocked by this mental habit of rational thought, But in the heart, if we maintain the purity of the heart as a child, we don't cover it immediately with the rational thought, So, and also living in nature, you see a child growing up in a city doesn't get this usual first example of expansion, second actually after living with the mother, especially. But then trees, they don't have constraint, they don't think. So vital energy is free, nature is very, very helpful, And then again, compassion, of course, being passionate with someone, sharing a feeling with someone, this empathy, it's again a non-local thing, So if expansion is being connected with non-locality, with the quantum self, with the form of happiness, what we can discover is beautiful and profound, So again, of course, love, compassion, and nature, suggesting to everybody.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate today, your time, for being here with us, all your knowledge. Like you said, like if we could, we would probably spend 5 days here talk to you guys, but we know your time is precious, so we really appreciate.
I can be very happy to start my day with you. You're so wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you. Much mahalo, mahalo.
Thank you.
Hello.
Gratidão.
Gratidão.
Obrigado.
Muito obrigada.
Okay, my dear. So we are in touch.
All right.
Okay,
Bye
yes,
bye.
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 Mm.
Bye.